Right, good afternoon. We are recording. We are ready to go. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Nicola Clements. I'm the Associate Director of the CUNY Alumni Activation Initiative, which I will talk a little bit more about in a minute. But I really wanted to start by thanking these wonderful CUNY alumni who have volunteered their time to be here today. We really think we're going to learn so much from you and be inspired by what you have achieved and what everybody can achieve with their CUNY education. So I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping. We are using a tool today called Mentimeter in order to get feedback and participation from our audience. So if everybody in the audience hopefully sees these instructions on the screen, can go to Mentimeter right now and join. You can join from either a phone or a computer, but if you can join and when you're on, you'll see a little thumbs up icon. I'm seeing people have found it. Amazing. Just so that we know that you're there. All right, we've got 35 people on the Mentimeter. I think we can move to the next slide. So a quick little words about what the Alumni Activation Initiative here at CUNY is and how this event came about. The goal of this Alumni Activation Initiative is to leverage the over 1 million CUNY alumni who we know are working and thriving in New York to have them help our current students secure meaningful career outcomes. And to us, meaningful means competitively paid careers that support their professional growth. And we want to make the CUNY degree worth it to our CUNY students. One of the main reasons CUNY students choose CUNY and come here to study is to support their careers. And we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to make sure that happens. This is the first event that the initiative has put on, and hopefully it's the first of many. Because it's the first event, you know, we're feeling things out, getting things together. So we appreciate any feedback. After the panel and the breakout rooms, we are going to request that you come back to the main room to do a little feedback exercise, and it would be really, really helpful if anybody can stick around for that. We're always growing and improving, and we want this to be something that serves you. So this event is really an opportunity for students and recent alumni to learn from CUNY alumni who have been in your shoes, have graduated from CUNY and have been looking for how to start their careers, and help them prepare for their professional careers. So it's a two-part event. First, we're going to be having this panel with my wonderful panelists, who I'll introduce in just a minute. We're going to be discussing career readiness, transferable skills, networking, all sorts of things. And then we're going to break into industry-focused breakout rooms. In those breakout rooms, it's going to be an industry expert who is a CUNY alum as well, who will be sharing their experience and background, and they will be answering questions as well. So without further ado, I'm going to present my speakers. So starting with Heather Joy Logan. Heather was born on the Caribbean island of Jamaica, but was raised in Brooklyn, New York. She currently resides in Queens with her husband and has 2 sons and 2 grandchildren. Heather is the director of a benefit assistance center for the Department of Social Services. As a CUNY alumnus, she has 3 degrees from CUNY, an Associate's of Applied Science in Biology from Kingsborough Community College, a Bachelor of Arts in Urban and Community Studies, which she achieved with a cum laude distinction, and a Master's of Arts in Labor Studies. Both of those are from the CUNY School of Labor and Urban Studies. In her downtime, she enjoys any sort of fitness challenge, such as PX90, T25, extreme kickboxing, and cardio, and has completed many cycling challenges in Brooklyn, New York, and Queens, New York. So thank you so much for being here today, Heather. Next, we have Lusely Martinez. Lusely was born in Puerto Rico, raised partially in Ecuador, and has planted herself firmly in New York. Lusely began her career in customer service at 14 and as an administrative assistant at 18. She attended Nassau Community College, completed her undergraduate at SUNY Old Westbury, with a bachelor's in mass media and communications and attended the CUNY Graduate Center for a specialized study program. She started her own administrative assistant business, which led her to work in the HR and recruiting space, first for her clients and then in the startup space. After being affected by layoffs last fall, Lusely landed at Compliant through her network of connections, and she now owns hiring strategy and employer branding for all teams as the only recruiter at Compliant. While her specialty is technical recruitment, she is also an SHRM certified professional who loves to improve people programs through data and empathy. Thank you so much for being here this afternoon, Lusely.
Happy to be here. Thanks so much for inviting me.
Of course. And next we have Candice Nelson. Candice Nelson is an HR professional and CUNY alum with over 20 years of HR experience within the healthcare and higher education fields. She has a bachelor's of business administration in HR management from Baruch College and will complete her master's in strategic HR operations from the University of Denver this fall. She has worked for private and public sector employers with expertise in recruiting and staffing. She currently works for the CUNY University HR department as a university HR advisor, providing HR business partner support to the campus HR directors. Candice also works for the Times Square Disney store, where she has been a cast member and training scout for 10 years, providing orientation and guest engagement coaching to new hires. Her unique combination of strong recruiting, retention, and customer service skills provides a solid foundation for the strategic HR management advisement she provides. Thank you for being here, Candice.
Thank you for the invitation, Nicola.
So you will have noticed, hopefully, that all of our wonderful panelists today have HR and recruiting backgrounds, and they're going to share some wonderful insights. Panelists, to start off, could you tell me in one sentence, and I'll call you each one at a time, what it means to you to be a CUNY alumni? Candice, you're on my screen. Could you go first?
Okay. What does it mean to be a CUNY alum? In one sentence? Okay. It's a sense of pride. It says pressure. Okay. I feel a sense of pride of having my success and everything I've accomplished being tied to a very tough but fruitful beginning at Baruch College. That's what I'll
wonderful.
say.
Thank you. Heather, would you like to go?
Yes, I didn't realize I was on mute. Hi. I would say a privilege and show much gratitude that I was able to have my education here within New York City, as I also work for the public sector. I think that's it. You said in a sentence, right?
Yeah. And Lusely, what does it mean for you to be a CUNY alumnus?
I would say I have a lot of pride and gratitude also for the robust, schooling system provided by CUNY. I had mentioned that I also attended Baruch for some time. So I recognize, how difficult it is to get through it. So.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Well, so now that we know a little bit about our panelists, before we ask them to talk much more, I would like us to take a minute to get to know our audience so that we can make sure that we are speaking to what experiences are important to all of you. So to that end, since everybody hopefully has their Mentimeter open, I'm going to go ahead and ask the audience, if you are a student, are you currently working in addition to earning your degree? We'll give it a minute to populate. All right, I think we have a critical mass. So you'll see, not surprisingly, the majority of our students are working while they're at CUNY. And of those, the majority are working part-time, which is more or less what we have come to expect. So with that, those of you who are working, would you say your job is related to your degree and your future career goals? And you'll see we've given you a couple options. Either it's directly related, it's not related at all, or you feel that it is somewhat related. Okay. A lot of people are feeling that the work they're doing now is not related to their future career goals. And just to get a sense, what kind of jobs are our CUNY students in the audience today working? For those of you in the admin, food service, retail, both are all pretty heavily represented here. I think that's something many of us can relate to in the kind of work that we did when we were in college. So you'll have seen, panelists, that it looked like about 3/4 of our audience were working, and over half of them didn't feel that their job is relevant to their future career. We have one more question to ask our audience. So in these jobs that you have, food service, retail, this large other category, can you tell me if you are doing any of these activities in your job? And you can answer with multiple. So do you talk to customers? Do you use software? Are you doing scheduling? Are you maintaining a schedule? Are you managing multiple responsibilities? Completing tasks by a deadline? We're seeing bubbles popping up in all of these areas, teaching and training new employees, explaining things to people, collaborating with coworkers, learning things quickly, talking to vendors, anticipating problems, and then interacting with people of different backgrounds. And this is just a small collection of what I'm going to be calling transferable skills that it looks like are very well represented by the students in our audience today. So panelists, you saw the majority of these students are working. Many of them don't feel that their work is connected to their future goals, but then we did see quite a bit of population in what we would call these transferable skills. So could you speak a bit to how a candidate can leverage those transferable skills when they're applying for career opportunities, when they finish their degree and they're ready to start? So skills that they have learned in sort of pay the bills jobs, that's what we've been calling them. How can they translate those into success in their careers and into gaining opportunities in their career jobs?
Hi, this is Heather. I would say definitely networking, continue to network with co-workers, their supervisors, their managers, their, advisors, and putting in, the best practices, even though they may be working retail. I mean, that's great customer service, and there's customer service, within any company, whether it's, Christian Dior, any of the city agencies. So it's to be able to market on all aspects that they do on the job, not just concentrating on, well, maybe I'm a home health aide, I work for Macy's, just, bring those things in that brings that to the table. So those are the things that they could offer.
Just to bounce off of that, I agree that there's so many skills that are transferable. Like if you've worked in retail, hospitality, anything, if you've worked directly with customers of any kind, all of this speaks to interpersonal skills that employers are really looking for, especially communication is a major one. And if you break that down into the many different components that is important to employers, things like, is this person actively listening? Are they able to build a rapport pretty quickly or gain somebody's trust? Are they showing some self-awareness, respect for who they're speaking to, patience, tact, and sensitivity in their communication? These are all incredibly useful things that you're also using when you collaborate with team members. And that's really, really important in the workplace. On top of that, another skill that I had seen on there was, managing schedules. I think that there's something incredibly powerful about understanding time management and task prioritization and knowing how to, map that out for yourself so you can be dependable. And that's a huge, huge thing in the workplace, is being dependable and being able to manage your time accordingly.
All right. To piggyback on both of those excellent points. First, I'd like to say I took notes on what the group was saying about how they felt that what they were doing wasn't connected to their goal. And I wanted to share with you that there's so much value in everything that you're doing. You're on your journey to your goal. And so sometimes when you look at a posting, you say to yourself, wow, what I'm doing right now may not connect and resonate with the person looking. But one of the things you're doing when you're looking for a job is to connect what's in your skill set and your experience to what they're looking for. The vast majority of the people who are successful in their jobs are successful because of soft skills, because of what Lusely said about listening and showing up on time and being accurate and being someone that someone can work with. And there's so much value in all of that. And we can teach someone to use a system, we can teach someone to learn a process, but the soft skills are honestly what really make or break someone's success in a job. So to all of you that are doing retail, food service, admin work, and you may say, wow, this is so far from where I want to go, you are setting good roots for what you're going to do in the future. And as someone who has a very professional HR career, and I still ring people up in Times Square every week in my Disney job, when I go on interviews for my HR managerial roles, everyone wants to talk to me about my retail job, because they know that in that space, that is one-on-one engagement with people where, frankly, the customer has to be treated a certain way. And I work for the Disney company where the level is really high. And so I'm always shocked people want to talk about my retail job. It's because those soft skills are sort of an indication of what it will be like to work with me, to train me. Am I open to learning new things? Am I understanding timelines and parameters? And so it's all connected. It's all part of your story. And as you read job postings and look for things that are seemingly the next step in your career, take a look at your resume, take a look at your background, and find the connections between what they're looking for and what you have, and you tie it together. But trust me, it's all related. So
Thank you for bringing up soft skills, Candice, because that's something I'd like to ask the panelists specifically. For some examples of soft skills, and specifically soft skills that when you see a candidate and it's come across that they have these skills, that's the candidate you call for the interview. Lusely, would you like to start?
Would you mind repeating the question? I'm not sure if I got it.
Yeah, can you share some examples of soft skills that students may have that you value when looking at candidates?
So one thing that I actually really value is very clearly on their resume, like seeing the different things that they've done. Like actually that they've written some bullet points for what they've done in these different positions, regardless if it's volunteer work, projects, whatever they've done, it should be on their resume, and it should highlight the different skills that they've picked up on it. I think that's really, really crucial. So some of those skills that I think are really important are customer service. So not only verbal communication, but I would say written communication, project management. So like managing, timelines and projects. If you've ever, been, that team leader on a project, why not highlight that kind of experience? Or maybe you've done that for a club at your school. That I think that's all valuable experience and things that you can highlight, even volunteer work. I think that's really important to look at. I'm trying to think what else. Very rare to see, but it's nice to see things like conflict management or difficulty with or dealing with difficult situations, or that's really important stuff though. It's rare to find that, and that's something that we like to see, because that means that you know how to deal in a variety of situations and can adjust your style for that. And I would say not just like the different soft skills that I'm talking about. I would say it's just also how you write your resume, right? It should be clear, it should have either full sentences, or if it's not, if it's just like bullet points, then let it be bullet points, but be consistent. And kind of really focus, like I said, on those skills rather than the tasks that you've done.
That's really interesting distinction, the skills versus the tasks. And I think that's what we're trying to illustrate a little with these soft skills, is some of those tasks you've done may not seem to relate to your future career, but the skills that you were using to do those tasks absolutely do. Heather, did you have any transferable skills or soft skills rather, that you would like to highlight?
I would say definitely emphasizing their relevant experience and skills, highlighting their achievements and their accomplishments, customer service, how they've interacted, with people, if it's, through retail, on the telephone, any type of networking, leadership skills, teamwork, team building skills, how they work, in a team, with a group of people, time management, how they've performed on any type of projects, what was the timeline, what was the timeline? Were they able to make the timeline? Describe that in detail, and any type of internship that they've done while they were, whether it's over the summer, during any type of a break, things like that. Those are the things that I definitely look for.
Okay, that internship note really leads nicely into my next question for everybody is, what can candidates be doing right now in school or at their pay the bill job that will help them build these skills? Candice, would you like to go?
Okay, what can they be doing right now? All right, so this goes to, it's going to be, I have two approaches for this question. So for those that are working right now, in addition to doing your coursework in school, you know, first of all, kudos to you. Right off the bat, CUNY students are masters of time management and getting priorities done. So you have to know when an employer sees a CUNY student and they see overlap between your schoolwork and your work, we already know that you have a certain kind of tenacity that someone who just went to school and didn't work while they were doing that has. So you definitely need to highlight that part of it. For those that are fortunate that they can just focus on their studies, but are athletes or have club leadership roles or club participation, anything that you can show to add depth to your academic journey is important. So those who have a job at Shake Shack, fine. Those who are the president of the tennis club, also fine. But you want to show that you're diverse as far as your approach to school and you can manage different things and that you can excel and do well in both. Again, that's managing dual priorities and changing priorities is the name of the game with a CUNY student. And that's off bat one of the best transferable skills that there are. But, you know, definitely don't hesitate to put any extracurricular activity that you do, a volunteer, something at your church or your synagogue, anything that you do outside of school that can show commitment to something, or that you're able to manage different priorities while you're going to school. That's an excellent way, one, to network, and two, to show that you're able to handle multiple things. And that's an excellent skill for any job candidate to have.
Heather or Lusely, would either of you have anything to add to how students can be building those transferable skills now?
Definitely, I would say working with your council person. There's a lot of voluntary job skills that they have, working with your community board, parks and recreation, volunteering at, different events, athletic events. It could be as, something small as even giving out water, just, participating in different things, because that is really, how you network, show that, you can network, show that, your diversity, and, you put all this on the resume, and it shows that, you're capable of doing so much. And especially as, a CUNY student, there's so much that we do already, that we do already, that, these are just little extras, and a little goes a long way, especially when you see that on your resume. It's a wonderful thing to see.
Absolutely. I love that about participating in things. Something that I've told students as a career coach when they say, well, I'm just not having any luck, is, and I obviously didn't invent this, but luck is when preparation meets opportunity. And when you participate in things, you're opening yourself to opportunity. And so if you're also prepared, you'll make your luck that way. So can we change gears now? Let's say our students, they have taken everything we've said to heart. They've looked into their transferable skills. They've updated their resumes, and they are now applying for jobs or maybe internships. All of you have experience hiring candidates. What behaviors make a candidate stand out to you beyond their sort of on-paper qualifications, so beyond their relevant experience? But if you could speak to that.
So speaking from the tech space, the tech startup space, having a LinkedIn profile is like pretty crucial. Even if it's not totally something that you're active on or networking with, it ends up being a pretty good networking tool. So keeping that up to date is something that I would always recommend. And it's something that could be your living resume in so many ways. So you can tie all your skills back to each of your positions, projects, volunteer work, anything, which I think is really powerful and useful. And it's also a great way for recruiters that are looking for people to find you. Additionally, just to be a little bit well-rounded with it, is to, along with like the LinkedIn profile, like making sure that you're highlighting all of these different things. Don't assume that a smaller job isn't important. So for example, retail, grocery store jobs, all of this stuff actually counts. Babysitting counts. I don't want you to consider any of that as smaller stuff, because it actually shows a lot of not shows, but it does speak to certain soft skills. So definitely don't consider them to be smaller things. As you grow in your career, you can remove those things, but right now you're early on. So every single little thing I would say is relevant. And I would say include a cover letter if all these things don't totally seem to make sense. You know, it's not always necessary, but I think it's always nice to hear directly from students what their interest is. And don't just copy and paste what you sent somebody else. Definitely do not do that. That is a very quick way to get rejected, because it tells me that you were not, you know, paying any attention to what you were applying for, maybe mass applying, and this is not really something that you're going to be a good fit for. So yeah, that's what I got on top of mind.
Perfect. Anybody else? Behaviors? Candice, I think
I have a few things to share. So a couple simple things. Having a professional email address that you use purely for career related things, right? Your LinkedIn profile, you're using that to apply for jobs, any platform, social media platforms that you're using for your career. Having that dedicated email address that's not clogged with coupons and sales and invites to things, something that when you look in there, you know what's happening in there, your career, the next best thing happening with your career is in that email address. It's connected to your phone. When someone's going to call you or contact you for an interview, you're not going to miss it because anything coming out of that email address is purely for your career and networking. So that's one thing I can say where people have the one email address and everything's in there and it gets lost, right? As far as behaviors that stand out, folks that pretty much know why they want the job, right? So it sounds very simple. Telling an interviewer that you just want to get your foot in the door is actually not the best thing to tell an employer, because that just simply means you just want to use them to get to the next thing, which may be true, but it's not any of their concern. So when you're when you're considering yourself for a position, be clear on why you want that job. Be clear on what you will get out of that job and what the employer will get out of hiring you. The best relationships are when both parties get something out of the deal. So if you're going to learn or you're going to get something, you know, I've always wanted to do X thing. I saw in the job posting that that this is part of the portfolio of work involved. I've always wanted to learn that. This is what I would get out of taking this job. But let me tell you what I'm great at, what you're going to get when you get me. And so when a relationship is beneficial to both parties, the company will say, wow, this person really is committed to doing this work for now, right? You guys are early in your career, not forever, but just for now. And even if it's a job where it's just, you know, and it's like low experience needed, and we know that folks are not going to stay in that job for too long. If you're there for a year and a successful year, that's a successful year. And as an employer, we will take that, because sometimes you can't get an successful month. So, you know, just make sure that you're clear. And when you're clear on why you want the job, you'll be clear on when they ask, why are you the best fit for the job? Why is your skill set the best fit? You already know what the answer to that is, because you've already examined why the job will be good for you and why it will be good for them. And that's something that many candidates aren't even thinking about. So if you think about that, your interviewer is not gonna forget you. Let me say that.
Absolutely. Are there any to add behaviors that stand out, but also behaviors that students should avoid? I mean, Candice mentioned having an email, which is great, but your email being professional and being your name or something, you know, not Johnny likes tacos at Yahoo. Because I have received candidates who have not professionalized their image in that way. But Heather, anything you would like to add?
Yeah, I feel that they should avoid submitting generic or vague applications or resumes. Sometimes you can have multiple resumes for different positions, so just don't have, you know, one of the same things. Avoid lying or, you know, exaggerating on a resume, because when they question you about it, you may not have the answer for it, and you know that's a bad look. And show, you know, the qualifications, and avoid being unprofessional or rude while doing the interview, and not following any type of guidance or, you know, instructions when, you know, you're being asked maybe to give a scenario, or they're asking you a little bit more on your, you know, on your resume, and you know, you become frustrated, and all that, you know, adds into the behaviors. But I would say definitely some positive would be show, you know, the best practices, have a positive attitude, and be enthusiastic about the job. You know, you applied for it. They called you in for the interview. Show your, you know, your enthusiasm, how, you know, you want to be there. You want to show your problem solving skills, your teamwork, and your adaptability, your best practices. Those are the things that would really, you know, that would show the positive part of it. Behaviors.
Absolutely. And something that I've told students is it takes a lot of resources to interview candidates. So if you've gotten as far as the interview and you aren't sure how to answer, why are you the best candidate, things like that, it's good to know that the employer probably thinks you can do the job. If they called you in, it's because they want to interview as few candidates as possible. So they are feeling good about you. It's now up to you to prove them right. And people want to be proven right. We have a great question in the chat, which I think makes a lot of sense, is how would you describe a generic resume? Because that's something we say all the time, don't have a generic resume. But also we don't want students to have these really graphic, illustration heavy resumes, because those are hard for the robots, the applicant tracking systems to read. So what can a student do to make their resume not generic?
Oh, Nicola, let me jump in on that one. As a matter of fact, Heather said something about vague resumes and it triggered something with me as soon as she said it. The objective. So I think folks like to have very lofty objectives in their resume that don't pinpoint what they want. So I want a customer service job where I can grow. That doesn't tell me what you want. You can be specific. You don't have to get granular with it, but you can say entry-level tech job that can utilize expertise in Microsoft Office Suite. That is vague enough and specific enough so that someone knows that you don't want to be in the mailroom, but it gives them something to work with. So if you're going to put an objective, let the objective be something that someone can discern what it is you're looking for. But if it's so vague that it literally could apply to anything, it's okay to not put an objective. You can just apply for the job. But I think when people put objectives that don't help the recruiter or hiring person understand what it is you're looking for, it's not a value add.
Yeah, absolutely.
I almost recommend removing an objective sometimes, to be perfectly frank. Make more room for, you know, your skills, your education on your resumes. Don't format too heavily. Proofread it. And what a generic resume is basically the one that you created on your computer, your first pass, everything that is not customized to the position you have applied for. That is what a vague resume is. It is this is the resume that I created. Now I'm going to go job hunt and send everyone the same thing. That is a vague resume. What we want to see is something customized that actually shows that you've got the skills that I'm looking for to fill this position, so that I can reach out to you and see if you're going to be really successful in our interview process. And if you're just sending me your generic resume, the one that you send to everybody else, I'm not going to really see that.
How do you feel about adding a skills section to the resume? On my resume, skills is at the top. If you want to make it as easy, not that I'm using my resume lately, but
love a skills section. Really highly recommend it.
And I think also the ones that are very vague, I've gotten some that it'll have, you know, the high school and the college, and it won't even really tell what the major is and your home address, and that's it. You know, you have to give examples, you know, be descriptive, you know, right? You know, the things that will draw me to say, hey, you know, this person looks, you know, this person is a possibility. I'm going to call them in. But if you just give something that's vague and you just have just a one-liner, 1 or 2 liners, that's, you know, that's too vague. Be more descriptive.
As a quick exercise to give people some concrete examples, let's say you have a retail background and you're writing up your resume and the bullet point you've written is helped customers check out or something. How would you enhance that? What would you add to that to make it show those skills?
How many customers were you checking out in a day? Like, how many customer interactions were you having a day? Possibly even if you've got any sales information, like include some of your sales information, like how many sales you've accrued, like usually in a typical quarter or like even a year. Like, I mean, whichever way you can quantify what you've been doing, so that you can actually show what you can do, right? So if you've been speaking to that many customers a day, that's kind of impressive. Like, for example, 200 customers, like, wow, really? That's impressive. How are you this efficient? But yeah, definitely things that you could do to stand out are things like that. Look at ways that you can quantify what you've done so that you can really see the impact that you can make.
Which means keeping track right now. You don't want to try to remember back, right? Even whatever job you're doing, keeping track of what you're doing now. Candice, did you want to take a stab at the retail example?
I have an unfair advantage because I'm actually in retail, so
It's not an unfair advantage, it's a specific experience.
It is. But the interaction with a guest at the register is so important because you have to be accurate with your money. You have to make sure that they have a great experience. You have to treat their items with care. They will ask you other questions about the sales or what's happening with the business, and you have to be able to ask those type of questions. And so you can parlay that experience at the register with just general customer service, great customer service skills. And there are apps for everything. There's no app for customer service. If I have to talk to you, I have to talk to you. And if we have to work together, there's no app that's going to get around me not working right with you if we can't talk together. And
Absolutely.
so being in an environment, and folks know in a retail environment that sometimes not everyone's happy to talk to you and that you don't get to react to their energy. And so if you can say diplomatically that you have perfected or you have honed your customer service skills through months of customer engagement in a fast-paced, busy retail environment with visitors from all over the country and the world, and say what you've learned. Say how that's made, because I tell my coworkers in the store that come and go that you will take what you learn in this environment. There's not a job on the planet that you cannot use working well and talking with each other. I don't know what that job is.
Absolutely.
So you can take that everywhere. So, and you learn it in a retail fast food environment. Not everyone sees you as a person. So if you can do it there, you can do it a lot of places.
Absolutely. I promised everybody a little advice on networking. So to sort of round things out, because we have had so much to say and I can't believe the time is going so quickly. But for students who don't have a lot of professional experience yet, don't necessarily have a lot of contacts, how can they get started with networking? Who can they be reaching out to? What should they be asking people? Just, if you've been told network and you just don't know where to start, what would you tell them?
I would say definitely their advisors, co-workers, their people that's in their class, family, friends, neighbors. You can go to your council people, just different networks like that. Even when you're dealing with your customers, as we were going back to the customer service, I wanted to speak a little bit about, they could have been the customer of the month. By their politeness, somebody may say, hey, they could recommend something to you, and it's just with that, being more communicatable, when you're, with the customers, showing, your PAI, being that your professional accountability and your integrity. And by dealing with the customers if you're in a retail job, it's just to me all about networking. And it's the little things, that politeness in you, the things that you do, somebody would recommend. So it's so many things. Absolutely.
I mean, I mentioned before LinkedIn. I would recommend it again, like connect with your peers on LinkedIn, connect with people that you know on LinkedIn. One of the main things that I say is you never know how valuable this connection will be down the road. So might as well make that connection now while you know this person and build a good relationship, rapport with them so they can speak to who you are down the road. Another that, ask for introductions from people in your network. You're going to find that people could really open doors for you, but they're not just going to do it if they don't know you're interested. So you kind of have to ask, and you got to do your research too. Don't make the work so difficult on the person that you're asking for, right? Don't tell them if you know anybody here. No, find the person that you want to be introduced to in their network and ask for that introduction. Not only that, I would say really take to heart like doing virtual job or career fairs or even live ones, because right then and there is an opportunity to network and connect with somebody and also build in your LinkedIn network if that's how you choose, obviously, to network. I really highly recommend that. Additionally, there are online communities that you could target based on where you want to grow. So since I'm in tech, I would recommend places like People of Color in Tech, maybe even Latinas in Tech. If you identify as female, Alpha is a fantastic platform. So, find your communities and engage and network there as well. These are really great areas. You can meet different people, even find possibly mentors, and learn about career paths that might be interesting to you.
LinkedIn is a great one because I think I found the majority of our speakers today by combing through LinkedIn and reaching out to them and saying, please come speak.
I mean,
anything else? Yeah,
Heather and Lusely gave just such great answers. I don't have too much more to add to that. Just two things. Definitely being active on LinkedIn, and when I say active, be intentional. Be intentional on LinkedIn. Think about the top 5 companies that you would dream to work for, and follow them. Engage on their posts, comment, repost, retweet, I don't know all the social media things. But be very active and intentional on LinkedIn. Do it now. If you're not looking for a job, be continuous on it, because passive job seekers can get jobs too. You'd be surprised what jobs fall into your lap even when you're not looking. And one last thing I want to say is, do not turn down an interview. Let me say it one more time. Do not turn down an interview. There's a new law that just got passed, the Pay Transparency Act in New York. So folks can see what the job pays before they even apply. They can kind of see, they can maybe apply and they see the posting range and they get the phone call for the interview and they realize, this money is just a little bit lower than for my liking. Treat every opportunity to connect with someone in real life, whether it be Zoom or in person. But there's a difference between attending a webinar and being in a one-on-one interview panel, whatever it is, for an interview where you're the star of the show. So many times throughout my years of doing recruiting, folks have just turned down an interview because they're like, oh, the commute is too far, or the money, I'm not sure. And you'd be surprised how many people I've hired into jobs that didn't interview for the job I hired them into. Because the people involved in the interview had another job that they were thinking of that didn't even get posted yet. So I implore you, as someone who's been doing this work for decades, if someone wants to talk to you, do not, unless you can't physically participate. Now, if you have a test, go to school. But if there's nothing between you and that connection, someone wants to talk to you, what's better than that? Don't miss the opportunity. If nothing else happens, you're sharpening your interview skills. And the best place to sharpen your interview skills is for a job that you're okay if you don't get it.
Thank you. And this is my opportunity to plug that CUNY alumni, so it's alumni activation, has created a LinkedIn group. So it's the CUNY Alumni Network, and it's open to students and alumni because the goal is to facilitate that networking between students and alumni. So if you're not in it, please do join it now. And we are unfortunately pretty close to our time because we're at our time because we need to organize for the breakout rooms. But I just want to thank all of the 3 of you, Heather, Candice, Lusely. Thank you so much for being here, for sharing all these insights. Thank you 3 so much. There were more questions in the chat that unfortunately we didn't have time to get to, but I know we're going to be repeating these events and doing more of them. Maybe we'll be able to bring you 3 back in. This has been such a great conversation, and I really appreciate the insights that you have shared here.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you again for having us.
Yes.
Of course.
Likewise.